What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics Show, live here on DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube channel. Guys, if you are new to the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button. It's the best spot to comment on the show, get interactive with your host. I am one half of them this morning, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. The Phillies drop Game 3 of the NLCS in Arizona to the Diamondbacks to make the series 2-1. Game 4 tonight, Game 5 tomorrow. We're going to be getting into all of it. The Eagles bring in Julio Jones to help out the wide receiver room with Quez Watkins going down for a little while. They get the Miami Dolphins on Sunday Night Football with the Kelly Greens making a return. James Harden, no showing for the Sixers as the season is just over a week away. We're going to talk about it all, but my man, happy Friday, and how are you feeling this morning?
Happy Friday, man. I'm feeling good, feeling rejuvenated. I know we're not at our regular start time, but we're just trying to get through, Dylan, he's a little under the weather. So
yeah, I can't crack whatever this is, man. It's very frustrating.
We had to get you right this morning, especially after a tough loss, man. But no, I'm happy to be here, brother. I hope you're feeling better and ready to break into, not all great news, obviously, between the Sixers and the Phillies last night, but we'll get you prepared for tonight's action and then hopefully lead into our Eagles pregame for Sunday.
Yep.
So a lot of good stuff to get into, some bad, but nonetheless great. It's Friday, the end of the work week, man.
Let's start with the bad, right? Let's start with the ugly, and that was last night's 2-1 loss to the Diamondbacks. They walk off. Craig Kimbrell, Ketel Marte rips a single to end the game. And listen, let's start right there. I know a lot of people want to blame Craig Kimbrell and blame Rob Thompson's management of the bullpen. Obviously, Orion Kirkering allows that run to tie it after Bryce Harper scores in the 7th inning. And those two things aren't void of blame, right? Right. We'll get into that. But the bottom line is you gave up 2 runs and lost the ball game. You gave up 2 runs and lost the ball game. Meanwhile, they had a rookie in Brandon Pfaadt who had a 5.97 regular season ERA on the mound yesterday. The offense was to blame. Okay, yeah. I know we love our offense and we love our home runs and the way they've been mashing the ball, right? And they've been a huge reason for the postseason success so far. But that doesn't mean that you just turn a blind eye and continue to blame Rob Thompson for all the mistakes or Craig Kimbrell because you find him frustrating and you're always nervous when he comes into the ballgame, right? Craig's got to be better. He comes in, he walks the first batter. Obviously, the umpire, not void of some blame there either, right? That check's, right. I mean, my God, that check swing in the 9th inning. No idea how that's not called.
No excuses for that.
Turner makes the play at home. It's now 1st and 2nd with 1 out. Craig's still got to make pitches, man. Craig's still got to battle and find a way to get out of that inning. He then turns around and walks the next batter, and that's kind of when you find yourself in trouble. So Craig Kimbrell was not good enough when it comes down to it. Orion Kirkering, the moment was clearly too big for him, and we'll get into if you were okay with Topper putting him in that situation or not. But the bottom line, Scotty, I'll throw it to you. Like I said, to open, it's the offense, man. It was the approach. It was the strikeouts. It was obviously no home runs, which was odd for this ball club, right? Yeah. They just were not good enough. You gave up 2 runs. You scored 1 in a loss, and your 1 run scored was because of a wild pitch after a double play, right? So, it was pretty dreadful.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because we came on here on pregame yesterday, and as this game started to play out, even through the beginning of the broadcast, I started getting just some bad vibes, honestly. I talked about it on the pregame show yesterday, how I was feeling,
they were sleepwalking for sure.
I was feeling very weird. As we started talking through the matchup with the Diamondbacks, I just started to revisit everything I said about the Eagles and Jets game on Sunday and how the Eagles were supposed to go out there and just dog that depleted Jets defense.
Right.
And they went out and put up 14 points, 2 touchdowns. And how ironic that we get to a similar scenario. Now, this is the NLCS. The Diamondbacks are better, right? The Diamondbacks are here. They're in the NLCS.
Right.
They made it through the postseason. They upset the Dodgers. They upset the Brewers. Like, they are a good team. We can say that. But should they come out and beat us like that? Should the bats go to sleep like that and just have a complete dud against a rookie pitcher who had close to a 6 ERA on the season? I get ERA is not the overwhelming, story of a pitcher. Maybe it can be misleading at times. But when I sit here seeing, and yes, subscribe to the channel, subscribe. We've officially hit the 50 subscriber mark on the new DSM Philadelphia channel. So like and subscribe to the video and the channel here. And yes, help us get to 100 and then hopefully to 1,000 and then so on and so forth. But no, man, it was unacceptable. As you see some of the at-bats, you could just see they were not locked in, man. I mean, it was as simple as that. The pitch selection, the swing selection was just completely off. And maybe it's from not ever seeing him and some of the other guys that they saw early in this game. Sure. But still, there's patience that comes with these guys and their at-bats, and you just didn't see it yesterday. And then you hear that they didn't do batting practice before the game. Yeah. I don't know how common it is that they decide to do that, but just felt like a little overconfident going into that game yesterday. Maybe
I don't know what the reasoning behind that method was yesterday. I don't know. Maybe they just I don't know. I'm not even going to get into that.
Yeah,
because it does seem a little odd that nobody took batting practice yesterday.
They said that's normal for Bryce, but the rest of the team
on field.
Also
Bryce normally hits in the cages underneath.
Yeah.
He doesn't take on-field BP. Here's my thing, right?
Yeah.
And I tip your cap to Brandon Pfaadt. He did pitch a hell of a game. You can't just dismiss it and just give 100% of the blame to the Phillies and no credit to the pitcher, right? He pitched a hell of a game. Yes, the Phillies had never seen him before. That definitely will play a factor. It should play a factor for the first time through the lineup, Scotty.
Exactly.
And here's my issue, right? He's a rookie. He's a rookie who had a 5.97 ERA. He's a rookie who didn't really pitch through 4 innings through the regular. Like, that was kind of his spot, right?
Yeah.
So how many other teams never saw him before when they played him this year? And he had a 6 ERA. You know what that means? Teams hit him. Teams got to him. And somehow this lineup doesn't yesterday. Now, he obviously lucks out by having Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly in his rotation, where they have to pitch in Philadelphia, because I promise you, if Brandon Pfaadt makes his NLCS debut in Philadelphia and not in the confines of Chase Field, it's a little bit of a different story.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he gets that snooze fest of a stadium and he settles in. My issue is this, okay? Brandon Pfaadt, Zach Wheeler to a AAA pitcher. Any major league pitcher could throw me 100 pitches, and I'm not sure I could even foul tip one. Yeah. I understand how difficult it is to hit a baseball. It might be the hardest thing to do in all professional sports, okay?
Yeah.
When you're talking hitting 100, you see the movement, everything's crazy. And it's always funny, watching the game, with my mom or something, and she's sitting here and she looks up from her phone and someone chases a curveball and she's like, "What is he doing? How do you swing at that?" And I'm like, "Ma, it's not that simple, all right? It's a little difficult." Yeah. However, I will say, in yesterday's ball game, the approach was mind-boggling. The pitch selections, the swing selections, the take selections were absolutely mind-boggling. I was sitting there, I'm like, Ma, now yell at them, okay?
Alec Boehm at the end of the game, man. Oh my God.
Alec Boehm pooped his pants. Alec Boehm wanted no part of that moment. It looked like he wanted to just try to get on base and take a walk. It was unbelievable. But even before that, right? Like, Kyle Schwarber's coming up and chasing 93 4 feet above the zone, but then looking at a fastball in the bottom of the zone for strike 3. Like, and then everybody else Like, I don't even know, man. Like, so many other guys, Trey Turner, hell, even Bryce Harper, everybody is taking fastballs
Down
over
the
the plate for called strikes early in counts and then swinging at off-speed stuff that Scotty never for a moment looks like it's going to enter the zone to start the second inning. Here's when I'll tell you I knew this game was headed south. And I think I texted you about this.
Yeah.
Top of the second inning, okay? Alec Boehm leads off. Full count. He swings at ball 4 and pops up. The ball is a foot below the strike zone. He goes out with one arm, pops it up to center field. 1 out. Next batter, Bryson Stott. Full count. Said he swings at something that I'm not even sure reached home plate.
Oh, that was the one when he like swung his bat like this, right?
Oh yeah, in the dirt,
like down.
Like that almost hit his foot.
I like screamed at the TV and at my wife, and I'm just like, "What are we doing?
Yeah,
like we are actively trying to lose the game."
Back walks to lead off the top of the second inning. That's what that should have been. Instead, both guys swung at clear ball 4s for outs. Yeah. And they never came close to base runners again, really.
Yeah.
Trey, first inning, right? First inning, gets a single. Bryce comes up. 2-1 count. Swings at something low in the zone. Grounds into a double play.
Double play.
What are we doing? What are we doing, man?
Was that the only... was Bryce the only double play yesterday? I'm trying to remember. Trying to recollect.
No, there's the one...
Because I remember... I was going to say it to Alexis. I was going to say we cannot have a double play right here. That's the one thing we can't afford. We can have a pop-up. We can have a strikeout. We just cannot have a double play right here. I'm
trying to think.
And then, boom. I didn't even say it out loud. I was looking for wood to knock on before I would say it. And then, boom, somebody hits into a double play. I can't remember who it is.
It was because it was when we scored the run, right? Because Bryce ended up at... Didn't we have bases loaded? Or... How did Bryce get to third base to score on that run? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we had
it felt like there was a double play right before that, no?
We had Boehm on base.
I'm gonna go check this because because I don't remember a scenario where we had bases loaded, nobody out. Okay. I'm gonna say that.
Bryson Stott. Yep, it was Bryson Stott in the 7th.
Double play?
Bryson Stott in the 7th. He grounded into a double play. Shortstop to first, Boehm out at second, Harper to third. So Harper got to third on the double play.
Right. Okay. Oh, right.
But so we had no outs.
First and second.
We had no outs with Boehm Boehm on first and Bryce on second. No outs with Stott at the plate. He grounds into a double play. We still luckily once again get the run, right? And I thought that was just the feeling of the game. You could predict something bad happening more than you could predict or feel.
By the way, what was that count, Scotty, when he did that? It was 2-1.
Yeah.
It was 2-1. And he swung at a changeup below his knees to dribble it to the shortstop.
Yeah, it was like they were. He said it earlier. They were sleepwalking. I mean, I just don't even know. Ranger Suarez wasn't sleepwalking. He comes out and throws the gym. I mean, that's what hurt the most about it, man. That's
Jose Alvarado. Alvarado with magic tricks, just pulling rabbits out of his ass, right?
I love the guy, man. I really do. But in that situation, what did you bring up earlier about Orion Kirkring? And it's funny. Before we got off the pregame show yesterday, I brought up Orion Kirkring and said how I liked his stuff at a low leverage spot at the end of the game in game 2. And this man,
what does Topper do?
He takes that and brings it to fruition.
Yeah, I got a
high leverage moment.
Listen, Monday morning quarterbacking, right? On this case, Friday morning quarterbacking. Right? Hindsight's 20/20. If it works out, I'm sitting here even more in love with the kid, and Topper's trust in him, and I get it, right? you're not going to sell me on it. You could tell me you didn't hate it. I'm not going to say that I hated it.
Yeah.
My question is just timing,
Yeah.
right? So let me ask you this. Why didn't he get to throw in a high leverage situation at home against the Braves or in game 1 against the Diamondbacks?
Yeah. Why?
You're playing this sloppy game. You just take the lead and then you put him in on the road. On the road. You're not going to sell me on it, man. And then let's call it what it was. Moment was too big.
Yeah.
And again, hindsight's 2020. The kid basically has 2 pitches. He has the sweeper and he has his fastball.
Yeah.
Brother, throw the fastball more. Okay? It's 100. You pump 100. Throw it a little more often because my God, if you hang another slider 80 or sweeper 88 to 89 over the top of the zone, I'm going to rip my hair out. Again, everything was magical for the kid in 3 postseason appearances. I get it. It's very easy to rip him in hindsight. Every hit he gave up, single, double, single, he hung 88 right down the heart of the plate. Throw the 100. It works. Trust me, it works.
Yeah. It's very simple, but I love the question you asked. Like, why in this moment did we decide to do that? Like, why? I don't understand it. But
Right,
what
like,
I will say,
did Sir Anthony Dominguez lose all your confidence because of one bad outing in the postseason? Because of a bad throw to second base?
That's such a Sir Anthony moment for him to come in, right? Like, if you're not going to go Alvarado, I get it might be a little too early for Alvarado. And then you hindsight, once again, you get to see what he comes in and does, right? And get you out of that situation. But I don't know. It's like what we've been kind of talking about with Topper this whole postseason. It's like, if it works, beautiful. You throw that in the gym vault and you raise stock on Orion Kirkring, right? But when it doesn't work, you ask yourself, well, let's go back to the time we won and that decision he made. Maybe that was a bad, maybe that was giving him bad fortune going forward, thinking he could do stuff like this. But
I think that's an interesting point, real quick, because I don't know how do I want to phrase this? Like, Topper has looked bad and Topper has looked like a genius. Yeah. But that's because it feels like he's rolling the dice a lot in the postseason.
Yeah.
Like, there hasn't been a decision where I said, I would do the same thing right here. And it didn't work out. And I was like, that's what I would have done, Yeah. It's either been like, oh my God, what are we doing? Oh shit, there it goes. Or, oh my God, what are we doing? Wow, he's a genius. Yeah. Like, my man is at the table at the casino right now.
0 to 100.
Right? Like, so he either looks great or you're scratching your head so far.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And I think, that's something to keep an eye on going forward throughout the postseason, just what type of decisions we're making in those spots. Yeah. And, adding up how many of them work, how many of them don't, how many of them are given, right? But that being said, I think the other thing with kind of the fan base and stuff, the Craig Kimbrell talk, like, I get it. He's been in tight spaces. He makes you nervous, like you said earlier, but are we really blaming him for this law? You know what I mean? Like, in this situation with some of the sketchy calls, like, I get it that it went both ways whenever an ump is, as bad as they were yesterday. It's not that it was like this unfair advantage to the Diamondbacks, but in these high leverage moments where you have the non-called strike, right? They said that he didn't swing. You had that moment, but then you had a few moments where Kimbrell did throw a strike, should have been a strikeout, right? Or one step closer to a strikeout, get him up 1-2 in a pitch count, whatever the case may be. But it's in those moments that things kind of get flipped on its head. Even on the other side, there was this specific moment where Bryson Stott could have went up on a count 2-1. Instead, it's 1-2, and it changes his complete at bat. So it's not that it was like unfair to the Phillies, but it was more or less just completely inconsistent. It was confusing. Like, if you're a pitcher pitching in this game and you're a catcher, where is the zone? Like, where are we hitting that is for sure going to be a strike on this pitch? Like, those are the things that I'm looking at. Just that type of inconsistency can just throw a game completely off track. But I just thought Kimbrel was picking up a lot of like slack. I get it. He's coming in these tight games. He's going to be in these high leverage moments. He's your closer. That's why the game is always close whenever he comes in. Like, that's the point. So, like, that's the confusing part to me. You think that Kimbrel's going to come in and have 3-run leverage and play everything safe? Right. No, he's coming in high leverage moments where it is a 1 or 2 run game, and he has to get us through those innings. And we've watched him do it several times through this postseason. So to flip on him right now is just really weird when the back.
He's got to be better. He has to limit the free passes. I get that. And whether the ump makes a bad call or not, you have to bounce back and throw strikes. Okay, that's your job coming out of the bullpen in a 1-run game, in a tie game like this one where we're hoping to get the extra innings. If you recall, and again, the umps were bad for both teams, right? So you're right. It wasn't an unfair advantage for one or the other, but especially late in the game in this inning, I want to talk about this because it did affect Craig Kimbrel. All right, 2 things. If you recall, the first pitch to the first batter in the bottom of the 9th, he threw a fastball less than belt high for a ball, apparently.
Yeah.
No, like I'm legitimately telling you, if this is the top of the box, this is the line.
Yeah.
The ball was here.
Yeah.
And he called it a ball to start the count. Now it's 1-0. Now, again, Craig has to throw that out,
figure it out,
throw strikes, make pitches, get the out.
Yeah.
He walked them on a full count. You could go back to the first pitch of the at-bat to figure that one out. And then we'll end yesterday's talk with this.
Yeah.
Okay. This was called a check swing by 2 umpires. Take a look at where that bat is. Scott, that just can't happen, man. Like let's just call it in the 9th inning. In the bottom of the 9th inning in a tie game with runners on. That was called a check swing.
That angle, man.
By the home plate umpire and whoever they threw it down to, the first base umpire. Come on. Come on, man.
Like what?
Again, he's got to make pitches. He's got to move on. He's got to forget about it. I believe he ended up getting this dude out anyway. But just, I don't know. What are we doing?
They couldn't afford us to.
And then I find out. Let me go back to my tweet here. All right, here it is. By umpire auditor. This was at 2:45 the day before our game. Umpire Dan Iassogna will be behind the plate of NLCS Game 3 Diamondbacks versus Phillies. Iassogna was ranked 79th of 92 umpires during the regular season. Why is this man behind home plate of a championship series game?
You can't make it up. The only thing that they could have done is throw Angel Hernandez back there.
What are we doing? What are we doing? 79, excuse me, of 92 umpires. And he was calling balls and strikes in Game 3 of a championship series. Oh,
and it,
my God.
Once again, just to clarify, it's not that it was just it's so bad of umping that it disturbs both teams. I feel like that's why you see a 2-1 game yesterday, because nobody knows what to swing at and pitchers don't know what the zone is. So how the hell? We're just playing a guessing game at that for every single at bat. So it's not that it was unfair to the Phillies in a sense. It happened in high leverage moments. I think that's why maybe it's more apparent, right? And we lost the game. So maybe it's why we're talking about it more on our side. But there were several at bats for the Diamondbacks where I'm looking and I'm like, okay, sure. But then you know that it's going to come back, right? And I think it was what was it? Was it Smith that was at bat for the Diamondbacks where they called a terrible strike? It was out of the box. Yeah. But then the next one was a strike, and they called it out of the box. Yeah. It was a makeup call. I don't know, but you just can't do that in baseball. You just can't afford to have that in a championship series.
I want to know how you are a $1 billion. How do you select that? You are a $1 billion business. You have all of the same information on your employees as the public has. And you decide that that's okay, that that's allowed in the NLCS. Yeah.
Where do you pick the umps? How do they select them? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
How does this guy get into
I don't know, man.
I
have no idea how when you get to this point, basically the Final Four, right? The only 2 series going on. I have no idea how it's just not the top 10 to 12 umps in the league, rated wise, statistically, whatever, that get to call these games.
Yeah.
And not even just, listen, if Dan Iasonia has a job in the championship series, that's fine. Why is he the home plate umpire? Yeah. Why is he not out in right field, left field, second bit? How is he the home plate umpire with that record? That's unbelievable to me. Don't want to see it again. Needs to get fixed. But the Phillies respond. The Phillies thrive.
Yeah.
After being punched in the mouth, per Nick Castellanos.
Yes,
they showed that to us last series against the Atlanta Braves. Brandon Marsh was asked how long it will take the Phillies to flush this loss and move on to Game 4 right after the game. His reply, Scotty, we already did. The leadership is there for this team.
Yeah.
The energy will be there for this team. We need the production to be there for this team. So tonight, Game 4, 2-1 series lead. 2 more games in Arizona. If the Phillies do not want to come back to Philadelphia, they have to win both. If they want to come back to Philadelphia with a series lead, they have to win one of 2. Now, you have Zach Wheeler on the mound tomorrow. Well, you have Zach Gallen on the mound for Arizona, who we know statistically is a different pitcher at home than on the road.
Yeah.
Tonight, you have Christopher Sanchez. Yes, definitely a question mark for the Phillies. We don't know what he'll look like in a championship series type of environment. However, the D-backs have a full bullpen game tonight. I believe they're starting with the lefty Mantiply.
Yeah.
The Phillies offense needs to carry them to a victory. The pitching has been phenomenal all postseason long. All postseason long. Historic starter ERA. Aaron Nola has a sub-1. Ranger Suarez now has a better postseason ERA than Sandy effing Koufax. Okay? The bullpen has had a ridiculous ERA, 106 heading into last night's ball game. Even in the loss, they were still phenomenal and held their own. I need the lineup to come through for us. I'm not saying Christopher Sanchez can't be great through 4 or 5 innings. I'm not saying Rob can't hand the ball over to the bullpen and dial his way to a victory. But I got to say, Scotty, if they give up 4 runs tonight, the offense has to do more. They gave up 5 runs tonight. The offense has to score 6.
Yeah. There's no
I
excuse.
need the offense to show up tonight.
Yeah, guys need to be locked in. You talk about skipping batting. I hope they didn't skip today, right? Later game, more time to get that batting practice in. Do what you got to do to get right for this game. You're going against Manaply. You got Ryan Nelson coming in. He's supposedly the guy that's going to eat up some innings for them in the midway, right? You take Manaply out after maybe the first or second inning if you can make it that long. And then you're going to see Ryan Nelson. Both of these guys in game 2 gave up 3 earned runs. In their short time in that game, they helped explode that game to a 10-0 win. So you're looking at 6 runs between both of those guys in that game too. Obviously, might not end up like that this game, but why not hope for that? Especially after a game like yesterday. My mind, man, as we watched that game play out yesterday, went back to what Martian Lynch put in the chat, and I almost feel like he spoke it into existence, man. The bat's going completely silent after an explosion like that in game 2. There's a lot of different factors that can play into that, but I expect them to be 100%, 150% better tonight. And to your point, there's no reason. There's no excuses tonight, right? It's not one of those situations where you haven't seen this guy like yesterday with Brandon Pfaadt. It's not like that. You've gotten to see these guys in this series already. So there's no excuses for these bats to come out flat tonight, man. I can't see it, but I couldn't see it yesterday. That's the worry for me, is that I feel the same today.
It wasn't supposed to happen yesterday either, right?
Yeah,
so
it wasn't supposed to happen yesterday. They're not supposed to come out. We talked about it yesterday, right? How do these teams show that they're different from other teams and different from the rest of the Philadelphia teams that kind of choke in the bigger moments at times? Well, that was not an example yesterday. Today can be an example by bouncing back and winning this game in a dominant fashion, which is like, you look at how the Diamondbacks won yesterday. Like, that's what it takes for them to win, is a 2-1 ball game, right? A 2-1 ball game is what it takes for the Diamondbacks to get a W. With all of the inconsistencies that the Phillies.
Right. Lourdes Gurriel said it was he can't believe how great of a ball game they just played after the game. That's all right. Well,
I don't know, man. Like, if that's what it takes, can they do that again?
Right. Exactly, man. So again, for us, for our fellow Phillies fans out there, exhale, deep breath, relax. We've seen what this team does when they get punched in the face and how they respond. This is the Diamondbacks. It's not the Braves. Yes, you're on the road. You're not at home. But I think they're going to be okay. Here's a way to think. Well, first, here's something I'm looking for. And then I'm going to ask you a very important question that needs to be discussed. Tonight and even tomorrow night, I need this team. Don't change your approach. Don't try to fix what's not broken with this lineup and the way you've been mashing baseballs. I'm not saying this. You can't, like, obviously you can hit home runs in Chase Field. Okay. Duh. Yeah. But this is a much bigger ballpark. This is a lot bigger ballpark than Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah.
I think the Phillies need to change their approach a tiny bit in the sense of, not looking for the long ball as much, right? Looking for the single, to get them over, if you get a leadoff double, if you get a stolen base, get them over, get them in. Playing small ball in this big ballpark could go a long way for this lineup.
Absolutely.
I think that's something they have to look to do tonight. Again, not to say that you're not going to hit home runs in Chase Field, right? The lineup card. Now, they're opening with a lefty Manaply, and I think that's very strategic of their manager because, like you said, that might only be for an inning or two. Then they're going to turn it over to the righties in the bullpen. So what he's trying to do is get Topper to change that order. We know what Topper does against the lefties, right? Yeah. We know he sits Brandon Marsh. We know he bats Harper fourth instead of third.
Yeah.
Stott maybe moves to seventh or whatever. If you know that Manaply isn't getting deep into this game as a lefty, A, do you even change the lineup at all? I wouldn't. I would stick with my regularly scheduled right-handed lineup. And B, do you move Alec Boehm out of the cleanup?
I knew that was coming. Yeah. It's tough, man. It's tough. And, up until yesterday, I was on the other side of the conversation. But I do think there is – I don't know that Topper is going to do it. And he may not be wrong for not doing it. If you want to keep the consistency of the lineup, if you want to keep Alec Boehm, you don't want to deteriorate his confidence even further by moving him down the lineup. But I will say I get what everybody's talking about on the outside when you look on Twitter and you hear people talking about how he's handicapping Bryce Harper right now by being behind him in the lineup. And you saw it clearly yesterday down the stretch, right? His last two at bats, I believe. He got lucky on the one, right? The infield,
the infield dribbler, yeah.
The third baseman.
Oh yeah, that was right before Bryson's double play.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But it was the end of the game for me. And when you talk about big moments that are going to arise throughout this postseason, I can't have a deer in the headlights sitting behind Bryce Harper in these moments. Like that, just taking those two strikes just down the lane, man. I just can't stomach that. I would rather, to put it in perspective, I would rather see Nick Castellanos swing for the fucking moon. Like, then watch him just stare it down and take a strikeout, like, across the plate.
Speaking of the umpires...
That being said, I would probably move JT rather than Casty to that spot if I was doing it. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. What I was saying was, speaking of how we were talking about the umpires earlier, in that same plate appearance that you're talking about with Alec, he took what should have been strike 3 that was called a ball.
Yeah.
Then fouled one off, and then took another strike 3. My man was it was bad, man. But I don't hate the thought of moving JT behind him. If you don't want to move Costi, because
what would you do? Out of those two, what would you do? I mean, I'm just going off of gut feeling, really. Costi struck out 3 times yesterday. So that's what maybe he's deterring me a little bit, but
I like, and he didn't get a hit the night before that. Like I know Costi through 2 games. Whoa, I know,
right?
Has kind of cooled off a bit. I would still probably move him in that spot. I don't want to have to move any of it. I love that Costi got accustomed and comfortable in the 7-hole. JT's been good down there. Boehm was an RBI machine for this team. He was hitting great. The problem is, they're no longer pitching to Bryce.
Yeah.
And you can't blame them. It's dumb at this point for them to give Bryce Harper something, especially with runners on base or runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
So when you look at it that way, it's like, who do you trust the most in the moment to protect him, in a sense, in the lineup? Yeah. To either A, if they walk Bryce, make them pay for it, or B, make them second guess walking Bryce. Because if they do, this next batter can definitely make them pay, right?
Yeah.
And maybe make it a 3-run home run instead of, if it was Bryce, a 2-run home run. That's the thought process that has to be going through the manager and the pitcher's head when Bryce Harper's up to bat. And this next guy beat us if we don't give him anything.
Yeah.
And right now, the answer to Alec Boehm is an astounding no.
Yeah.
You're not scared of Alec Boehm at all at the plate right now behind Bryce Harper.
It looked like he was bouncing back a little bit towards the beginning of this series, but then boom, yesterday you saw him hit ground zero, man. It was, once again, just those unconfident, right? Those unconfident.
Right. Granted, again, everybody took a step back yesterday, right? Nobody was good yesterday. Yeah. But when you're looking who to highlight in the lineup,
in grand scheme,
you have to go.
And you also have to think about it this way. Do you want to wait until you're playing the Astros and Rangers and then you are forced to make that change, right? Like, do you just get ahead of it now and make that change?
You got to get ahead of it in this series. Like we said, man, tonight, I get it. You were up 2-0.
This is a big swing game.
2-1. Like, it's not a must win, but you got to win
Close.
tonight. You do not, you have to win this game tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
So if that means making tweaks, I'm doing it. And I don't think the tweak is to say, well, I'm going to put Bomer ahead of Bryce, and then, JT or Costi will be there to back him simply because of the lefty and Mantiply, because Mantiply's not going to throw more than 2 innings.
Yeah.
And then it's a right-handed dominant bullpen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what Topper does, man. Everybody has to be better. Alec Boehm needs to figure it out. I'll say this: Bryson Stott needs to figure it out as well.
Yeah, he's been bad.
He has not looked right
that
this
Grand
series.
Slam. He's done nothing, really.
He has to figure it out. Rojas, I love him in the field. You got to give me something in the batter's box. Here's my thing with Johan Rojas right now, man. My guy, even if you can't hit right now, how have you not learned how to bunt? Like when there's a guy on set, when Marsh is on second base, for instance, perfect example, Brandon Marsh leads the inning off with a double last night.
Yeah.
How is that not a bunt attempt from Johan Rojas? I mean, I don't care if he bunts 3 times in a row and strikes out with a foul ball bunt. It's better than swinging at a ball at his eyeballs for strike 3.
Yeah. That's one thing we don't seem to do very often at all, right?
But that's the small ball I'm talking about in Chase Field right now.
Yeah. You have to play it, man. It is. You have to take what you can get right now. And that's just is what it is in a bigger field like this, away from home. You got to do what you got to do to kind of get by. And that's what bothered me about yesterday. They didn't do that, right? Everything, It was like their way or no way. There was no adjustment. There was no change of game plan. It was their way or no way. We're not going to just try to get by. We're going to try to mash balls.
I'm so glad you said that. We're going to get into if we think they win tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah.
But that's why I throw the excuse of never seeing Phatt before out the window. Yeah. Because, like I said, it's already a lame excuse because he just wasn't good in the right. Like, he's a rookie. Nobody had really seen him before. He had a 6 ERA, so clearly people could figure him out. But B, they gave him the early hook with a low pitch count. You were lucky that he got pulled from the game. You have seen these relievers, and the same things continued to happen.
Yeah.
The same
That's
bad
how you
swings,
knew, right?
The same bad takes, the bad approaches, the double play. The ugliness continued with what you have seen before and what you're familiar with. So you can't blame never seeing Brandon Phatt before for the length of the game. Scotty. We both said Phillies in 5 coming into the series.
Crazy enough.
Are you sticking with it, or are you altering your pick?
I am sticking with it, man. I'm going to stick with it. I was going to alter it yesterday to 4, but nonetheless, glad we didn't go that route from the beginning. Both of us picked 5. It was for that type of reason, though. If you really think about it, how do we expect the Diamondbacks to beat the Phillies? Maybe not on Ranger Suarez start, but it would be a game like that where it just feels like a complete fluke. And that's kind of what you expect. It's playoff baseball. The Diamondbacks are a shifty team, right? They're trying to make things happen. They came out a little bit more aggressive yesterday, a little bit more confident at home, and we're able to get a 2-1 victory. I'm not going to lose sleep over that, but you have to win tonight. You have to take care of business with the bullpen game. And then, I'll go into a game with Zach Wheeler at the mound on the road in full confidence. There's no reason for me to not do that, right? But you lose this game, you create a higher pressure situation. That's when things get really sketchy, right? So, I do think the Phillies ultimately know they have to come out here, win this tonight, because you can't go back to Philly. Like, at this point, like after last night, the way the Diamondbacks won, if they won, 5-1, they had a good batting night and we had a poor night and we weren't hitting anything, sure. But they won 2-1. Off of Craig Kimbrell at the end of the game, some questionable calls, some questionable pitches, and that's how they win, right? Walk off 2-1.
Right.
I'm not losing sleep over that, man.
The Phillies got their bad offensive outing out of their system.
It was an early game. There's a lot of weird. I'm not giving the Phillies excuses.
No.
They don't deserve any, but there was a lot of weird stuff within that game yesterday. Tonight, they play closer to a regular start time that they would play in Philadelphia, right? It'll be about 5 o'clock here. It'll be 8 o'clock there.
No. 8 o'clock here, 5 o'clock there.
5 o'clock. Yeah, I'm getting my times backwards. My bad. It's Friday. But nonetheless, should be a more normal start time that they're used to. But no excuses at all. I want to make that very clear for what happened yesterday. And the Phillies know that. Like you said, Castellanos' remarks, that's what it's about. When we get punched in the mouth, we're going to get right back up. And yeah, man, I'm confident still. I haven't lost confidence. I saw a lot of people overreacting to that game yesterday.
And the fact that this is a bullpen game just feels like the perfect punching bag for this offense, right? To get back on track. I'll say this. If the Phillies find a way to lose tonight, I fear that they're coming back down 3-2.
Yeah.
Down.
I would agree.
3-2. They're not losing tonight. I'm so confident. And again, I was last night, so maybe this is a trending problem. But I'm so confident that they win tonight that I placed my Phillies money line bet last night. After losing a lot of money on them, after being frustrated with them, after saying that, why does this team deserve my money? I'm so confident. I threw it in almost 24 hours before first pitch. They're not losing tonight. We've never seen Christopher Sanchez in a moment like this.
Yeah.
It's obviously on the road. It's not a Citizens Bank Park. He hasn't pitched in a while, it feels like. Maybe that's an issue. But I'll tell you what. We talk about Ranger being cool, calm, and collected, and he was last night. And Christopher Sanchez's interview last night, he seems pretty cool, calm, and collect. Gave a little wink. I'll be ready type of situation. It's not like Rob's expecting him to go 7 innings, right? Like I the leash is going to be what I'm interested in watching tonight as well, because this dude is clearly able to give you 6 innings of work. Like we've seen that, right? But does Rob have Ranger Suarez game 1 Atlanta up his sleeve where it's a 1-0 ball game, a 0-0 ball game in the 3rd or 4th inning, and he gets in the 1st and 2nd, 1 or 2 outs? Does he go to the bullpen there? I can't do that, man. I can't. You have an advantage. Even though it's not Wheeler or Nola or Ranger, it's Sanchez. You have a starter who was really good for you this year versus an entire bullpen game. I'm not doing anything to jeopardize that and even the playing field for them and matching bullpen game versus bullpen game unless he gives you a reason to. Unless he gives up
clear
a 3-run home run in the 3rd inning and it's 4-0 Arizona.
Yeah.
Unless something crazy happens early on, Christopher Sanchez, to me, at least needs to get into the 5th inning of work tonight.
Yeah.
And through 5.
I do think Christopher Sanchez, when you look at the grand scheme of this game, he's kind of lucky in a sense that he gets an angry lineup on the other side of things, right? As far as the Phillies and their bat.
He doesn't have to battle Zach Gallen.
These guys have probably been starving to get to this game tonight. Like, in reality, after a showing like that, you are angry. You're hungry for the next one. And I think he's going to receive a little bit of insurance and take a little bit of that pressure off his back. And hopefully the bats can do that tonight. And hopefully we can see Sanchez through at least 4 to 5. Let me ask you this. Do you see Taijuan Walker at any point in this game? Is he an innings eater for you at some point? Or do you feel maybe with Wheeler on the mound tomorrow, you don't really need to do that? You can just
I don't think so. I think Rob will trust the bullpen more so than piggybacking this game, which is funny in a sense because Taijuan was almost a Cy Young candidate post first inning, right? Taijuan Walker's kryptonite was the first inning of a baseball game. And then he was just able to cruise through 6 or 7 innings of work and hold the fort down after that. But he might give up a 3-run home run in the first and lose command. I don't know what it would look like if you brought him in the 4th inning. If Sanchez gave you 3 clean and then you went to him for the 4th through the 6th.
Right.
I don't know.
Because, like, would the 4th inning just be his first inning?
Right.
And then now you see it play out in the 4th.
Right.
That's the other side of that.
Right.
But, yeah. I was curious because, like you said, outside of the first inning, he's an interesting option. But he's another guy that hasn't pitched in a while. So maybe you just trust your bullpen more. And hopefully you don't have to use your bullpen that much tomorrow, right? Hopefully Zach can get you through 7 innings. So, I'm with you there. I think the Phillies, man, they come out strong tonight. I think they take care of business.
I think a quick start is incredibly important for the offense tonight.
Got to get some runs on the board.
Yeah. I think it's important for them, and I also think it's important for Thompson's trust and leash in Sanchez. Important for Sanchez, important for the bullpen when they come in, because like this, we've had some blowouts, right? We had the Miami game, we had the 10-0 game in game 2 against the Diamondbacks. We had the one game against Atlanta that was a blowout game. What was that? Game 3, right? But this bullpen has pitched in a lot of high leverage situations so far. And I think it would be nice, again, after a game like last night where you had to battle and, like, dude, think about how sad this was. We were praying for extra innings. Like, we were all mad at Craig. We acted last night like Craig Kimbrell blew a lead and lost the game. No, we were just hoping that this shitty offense could get to extra innings and something would change in the 10th.
Like, it was 11th, guaranteed, right? If you get to extra innings, we're winning. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we were sitting there like, come on. Like, yeah,
so
I feel you, man.
I need this offense to come out early and jump on this bullpen game for Arizona. And just, you got to take control of the series, man. And there are nerves in my system right now, simply because what the other side holds, right? Like what your fear is, 2-2. You were up 2-0, it's 2-2. Gallen at home, like now that becomes a must win. But this team has given us no reason to be fearful.
Yeah.
Everything in their past, from last postseason to this postseason, has said and has shown that they respond. And I hope that they can tonight. They need to tonight. And I think they will tonight. Phillies will win tonight. And then we'll worry about tomorrow. Yeah. Scotty, with that said. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, hey, they bounce back each and every time that they've lost. They've only lost one other time this postseason to the Braves. Right. But they bounced back 10-2 in game 3 against the Braves, man. You need something similar tonight, a dominating win. I get it's the bullpen, but come out here and show you're the better team. I'm with you.
Now, the interesting thing from last postseason and this postseason, their loss to Atlanta, is when they have responded and bounced back in those losses, they've been coming home to Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah.
They're on the road for not just tonight, for 2 more that they know of. So they have to find a way to muster up that energy tonight. But they're not going to get too much push. But that crowd is a disaster. First of there were a pretty good amount of Phillies fans there. I saw a tweet that it was a complete sellout, 47,000, blah blah blah, complete sellout. Bullshit. Like, are you going by? Are you going by like the number of tickets sold, or are you going by the body count in the seats? Because like they showed more. I saw a camera angle on the first base side where they had a dude sitting and there were 8 empty seats next to him before the next person. They weren't sold out. Nobody stands up. They're quiet.
I heard the commentators too trying to like make up for it. Yeah. Like, no, dude. Like, come on.
No. Larry Anderson, my uncle texted. He was driving home from work in the beginning of the game, and he was listening to WIP on the call. And he said that Larry Anderson said he was afraid to talk because he didn't want to wake anybody up. I mean, that just tells you how piss poor that stadium was.
Yeah, I saw a Diamondbacks fan like tweet out like, "This is how you do it, Philly," showing like a video of the crowd. It was so just
people are very, very delusional. Like it scares me how delusional people are, and I'm being serious. Like,
get the W. Shut this shit up.
Speaking of delusional, we seem to be delusional last Sunday about our Eagles. But they make a pretty, Howie goes out, gets on the phone, makes a pretty good move, man.
Yeah.
Bringing in future Hall of Famer, wide receiver, Julio Jones, Scotty. Initial thoughts, man? How are you feeling about the pickup?
Yeah, at first, initial thoughts when it first happened, I was like, okay, like, are we gonna get any help for the defense? Like, but after mulling on it, seeing his presser, the introductory interview, and seeing him at practice, how big and he's still in shape, like seeing where he's at, yeah, I'm kind of excited, man. I think he has a lot of reason to come to this team and be like highly motivated. He has a lot of players within the roster that can make him feel comfortable. When you look at Smitty, the Alabama connection, right? That's kind of a guy that Smitty can look up to as a mentor.
Played with A.J. Brown.
Jalen Hurts, once again, from Bama. You got that connection. And this team's ready for a championship. That's the biggest thing. He knows that. He's going to come in and be motivated. And the simple truth is, man, Julio Jones as wide receiver 3 cannot be worse than Quez Watkins. Cannot. And I do think in an offense where you have Smitty, AJ, and Goddard all around Julio Jones, that creates a very big option at wide receiver 3 rather than your, take the top off the defense 100%. From Quez or Olamide, who's kind of smaller wide receiver, right? You get Julio, should be a better blocker, should be a bigger body, a bigger target in the red zone. These are the type of things I'm looking forward to from Julio. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy. That's always been a big thing for him. But low risk, I would say medium to high reward you can get from this, similar to Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh last season. So I'm excited for it. And aside from all of that I just talked about, when it pertains to production or fit with the team, whatever the case may be, it's cool as hell to have Julio Jones on your team.
100%.
This is cool as shit to have Julio Jones. Like, I just never imagined Julio Jones really being in an Eagles uniform. So I'm excited for that as well.
No, absolutely. Because you mentioned the risk reward. The reward could be high. Now, don't get it twisted. This is not Julio Jones of 4 years ago.
Right.
But Julio Jones could definitely make an impact on this team. And I'm not even at the point where it's like, well, it can't be worse than Quez. No, I'm at the point where like this could potentially be a great fit. And I do hear your point of, are we going to do anything defensively? Right. Oh, great. We brought back Josiah Scott and all these injuries. And I do agree. Like, this defense isn't going to continue to hold up, especially with the quarterbacks and the offenses and the teams they're gearing up to play on this schedule. So Howie definitely has some work to do. But with that said, in terms of this Julio signing, the defense hasn't been the issue.
Yeah.
Even with all of those injuries.
Yeah.
The offense has been the issue. So to go out and kind of bolster that weakness so far, and what is the one weakness you could argue on the offense? Again, it's wide receiver 3, right? It ain't 1, 2, it ain't tight end, it's not running back, it's not quarterback. Lane is probably playing this Sunday night, I heard. So it's not offensive line anymore, right? And you weren't going to go do anything for a right tackle for 1 week. So that's basically the only spot you could upgrade a struggling side of the ball. And I think it has high reward written all over it. Like you said, he's got to stay healthy. It would be the most Julio Jones and Eagles thing for him to come in, look good on Sunday night, right? Maybe he scores a touchdown somehow, and then next week tweaks his hamstring or something, and it's lingering all season long, etc.
That is my only quote unquote worry. Although that's not a worry, I don't think that if Julio Jones goes down, it's going to hinder our offense. I think he can add an addition to the offense, like you said. Once again, I think the concern goes to, how are the Eagles going to use him? Are they going to use him correctly? Are they going to create plays that put him in spots to help produce? Because he very clearly should be working in the slot as kind of this like possession type of big body receiver. Are they going to use him in the red zone, man? They don't use AJ in the red zone. They don't use Goddard in the red zone. are they going to use Julio in the red zone where he should be used the most, man? These are the questions that I ask. But at the same time, when you hear Julio Jones come in and he says, I'm coming in to dominate, I'm coming in to perform good. Like, I'm not coming in to just be this side character, right? He's coming in to be Julio Jones and dominate games. And you did see flashes of it in Tampa Bay last year. That's just a simple truth against a good Dallas defense.
Yeah.
Had his 2 best games. I don't know if that's coincidence to how he's signing him or whatever the case may be, but he had his 2 best games last year in the postseason against Dallas and the first game of the season against Dallas.
Yeah, I think Tom threw him a go ball in the first game of the season last year for a touchdown against the Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm excited, man. This should open it up not only for him with having the guys around him that we have, but it should also open it up for the rest of the guys, right? It should help AJ. It should help Smitty get open. It should help Goddard in the middle of the field get open. So I'm excited, man. Name value alone, I would be excited.
Yeah.
But I think people are selling on Julio Jones. Like, I've heard people say, why is he getting signed now? He's getting signed now because he's beyond taking a contract for money purposes. He wants to win a championship. He wants to see who needs the help.
And what
obviously
he did,
how he proposed him a situation that he liked.
What he did is becoming more and more popular with veteran guys that are ringless or chasing another ring, where they're not going to sign in the offseason and put their bodies through another long, grueling training camp and preseason and, full 18-week slate. No, they're going to work out. They're going to rehab. They're going to do everything necessary to stay in shape and stay ready. And then, around this point, and whether you want to call it fair or not, it's just look at what the Eagles did last year with, like you said, with the defensive tackle position. It's what guys are going to continue to do that are getting up there in age that have injury histories. And hopefully it works out for Julio and the Eagles this year. It is ironic though, where our greatest fear with Julio Jones is that he can't stay healthy. And our greatest fear heading into this year, the one thing that could hold the Eagles back was that they were almost perfectly healthy last year. Is that sustainable? Not only clearly wasn't not sustainable, Scotty, they might be the most injured team in the National Football League to start this year. It is unbelievable what they're dealing with on both sides of the ball, more so the defensive side of the ball. There's not much you can say other than you have to hope their luck can just change, man. Like they just continue to take injuries. The good news, I guess, is that their stars, right? The bigger names have been, limited injury. They've been 1 week type of injuries. Darius Slay, Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, hopefully Lane Johnson. Like they're missing just a half a game type of thing.
Sidney Brown back this week.
Right. Sidney Brown comes back this week. Reed, when he missed 1 game and came back. So it hasn't been too long term, but with how many they've had pile up, it's like you're missing like 6 dudes in 1 week. And then you have the in-game. Like last week was just a disaster, man. Last week you came into the game injured on defense and you lost like 5 more players in the secondary and the linebacker spot and Milton Williams. So like it was really bad. You have to hope that their luck can just change and turn around. You're only 6 weeks into the season. You got a lot more time to go. And they got to get right. But we're not going to get into this Miami game. We're going to do that Sunday on DSM pre-game live right here on this YouTube channel, guys. Make sure you are subscribed. Before we get out of here, Scotty, one more team to touch on. That is the Philadelphia 76ers. That is James Harden. Did not report to practice 2 days ago. Did not report yesterday. Highly doubt he's reporting today. He's in Houston. Shocker. Surprised he's not hanging out in LA. I don't know. It's just weird to me. But what do we do, man? Where do we go from here? Obviously, I don't think either one of us expected James Harden to suit up at least I didn't. I did not expect James Harden to suit up night 1 for the Sixers. I know he was showing up to practice. He came to Colorado. He was being a good teammate. Pat Bev talked about him on his podcast. He was staying at the practice to work with Maxey. Like he was doing what he was supposed to do. But I still did not expect him to be in a Sixers uniform playing night one against Milwaukee. However, now he's just gone MIA. The antics are going to start. Get me out of here. I don't know when this situation ends. You start to hear rumors that, even the Clippers would like to get something done by opening night. Obviously, the Sixers would love to, but this is like the offer was a pick swap, a first-round pick, and Terrence Mann, and they're not budging. You know what, dude? Right here. Right? Like, get out of here. Like, stop.
Yeah.
Stop it. So I don't know how this gets resolved. I don't know what LA's tipping point is. I don't know what Morey's tipping point is. I don't know what Harden's plan is, because I'm telling you right now, man, if LA continues to say no, I'm doing what Daryl Morey's doing, and I'm putting that trade piece right back in my pocket. Yeah. And James, you're either going to play or I'm going to hit you in the pockets.
Yeah. No, it's funny how it's kind of played out. You kind of got people to buy in a little bit, if you're foolish enough to do so, when he was coming back to practice in Colorado and all that. But yeah, there's been rumors that maybe his mom's sick and that he's, with her down in Houston and all that, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt, in my opinion. Like, if he comes out and says, yes, my mom's deathly ill, I'm down here taking care of her, that's why I missed practice, then sure, I'll take his word for it.
Right.
But I'm not going to give him the benefit of doubt based off of rumors that we're just not supposed to believe.
Wouldn't that be reported from Sixers camp? Like, when Nick Nurse was asked, when Nick Nurse or someone was asked, it would be like, oh, why wasn't James?
And why aren't you telling the Sixers that that's the case? That's what I mean. He doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. This guy, for all I know, he's at a strip club in Houston because that's where he lives, in a fucking strip club. It's fucking weird. But nonetheless, I'm with you, man. At the end of the day, I would tell the Clippers exactly what Daryl Morey told them on the phone. Fuck off. We're not doing the deal right now. And come back whenever PG or Kawhi gets injured, because it will happen. And that's where I would leave it, because at the end of the day, somebody in this NBA, in this league, one of the contenders or pretenders, whatever the case may be, whether that be Chicago, right? Maybe Chicago, one of their guys gets injured. Maybe it's DeMar DeRozan gets injured. Or maybe the season just isn't going the way it's supposed to by the trade deadline. Now they decide to open up Zach LaVine for trade. Maybe you just want to take an expiring Harden, you let him walk at the end of the season, open up their books, they get out of the LaVine contract. I'm looking at situations like that. You can take it back to the Clippers. Maybe they're not as desperate now, right? You don't want to give up Terrence Mann, fucking role player. It's ridiculous. And it just shows you what the league's trying to do. They're trying to fleece the Sixers right now. It's not going to happen with Daryl Morey, and I take pride that Morey is like this. Because we saw how it played out last time. Everybody was telling us the same thing from the outside about Ben Simmons. Oh, you may as well just ship him out, get him out of your team, get him off your roster, blah, blah, blah. No, you end up getting the top 75 player at the trade deadline for him. Same thing with Harden. I get it. He doesn't have the years left on his contract.
We now want to trade.
I'll be honest with you, bro. I think we'll make the playoffs and get a top 5 seed even without Harden ever suiting up for the Sixers or getting traded. I think we would get a top 5 seed. Might not win the championship, but I think we would get back to the same spot we got to last year, which is the second round. And then, boom, you get to next offseason and you do what you got to do with your free cap space. But I would literally let Harden rot on the bench.
Yep.
Rot on the bench. If you don't want to rot on the bench, go home. We're not going to pay you. We're going to end your NBA career this season because you won't be able to return with your contract. That's what I would do. You want to play hardball with us? We'll play hardball with you, man.
1,000% agree with you, man. Let's go back to the core issue here. James Harden opted in because he knew he wasn't even going to get more than the 34 point whatever that he's getting from the opt-in, from the option from the Sixers anywhere else. Okay? That's step one. You opted in. I am so sick and tired of these dudes.
He did us a favor.
I'm going to bring up Dame. I'm going to bring up all of them. I am so tired of these dudes that make millions on hundreds of millions of dollars acting Like, this ain't your goddamn job.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't opt in. Like, you didn't sign the deal. Damian Lillard. Like, you didn't decide to extend with Portland a year and a half ago.
To get that Supermax. That was all good, though, right? Get that extra pay. Maybe the taxes aren't that bad in Portland, and get that nice contract extension because you stayed with your original team.
And then they have the balls, Scott. You have the balls to try to demand one location you'll go to. Oh, is that so? Okay, you're going to sit your ass right there, and then you're going to pay me weekly because you're getting fined every week. Yeah. I can't stand it, man. I cannot stand James Harden and what this dude is trying to do right now. And what these dudes
put it in perspective. Put it in perspective, man. James Harden crying and bitching and moaning about receiving 36 million this year from the Sixers. You got running backs in the fucking NFL getting concussed every week that are getting paid under $2 million. They're not holding out, right? You have the occasional. Le'Veon Bell ruined his career by holding out. You have the occasional. But they're not holding out for the most part. Saquon has played. Austin Eckler has played. Jonathan Taylor is playing. And he got his contract, right? Things worked out. Maybe that's what could happen for Harden if he plays really well this season. Gets the Sixers where they're supposed to be. But no. 35 million, that's not enough. He needs to take care of his family. Take care of your family. Are you fucking kidding me? You have generational wealth. Are you joking? Like, I need to get back to LA so I can, it's just taking care of my family. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm not hearing that shit. And that just shows you why he said he wanted to end his career in Philadelphia. You couldn't end your career here. You don't fit in. You're not blue collar. You don't work hard. Like, you don't fit in with Philadelphia. And that's the simple truth when you look back on the whole situation. And as excited as I was to get a guy like that in here and have that star on the team, right? What comes along with it? Complete diva status, man. It's ridiculous.
To wrap up
putting it in that perspective of like running backs in the NFL, the most violent sport arguably in the world outside of like UFC, boxing, and rugby, right?
Making like a 12th of what James Harden is making this year.
DeAndre Swift.
Right.
Making $1 million?
Yeah.
But we got James Harden crying.
To wrap up the show, I'm glad you brought up him not fitting Philadelphia. Because someone else brought this up the other day, and I honestly think it was freaking Mad Dog Russo with Stephen A.
Interesting.
Because he brought up how Harden has never shown up in the big moment and played well in the big game. Like, he had his game 1 in Boston. That's not game 7, game 6.
Right. Game 1.
And I get it. They should. They're all games in a 7. No. You know that the moments get bigger and the moments.
If that was true, then we would count his other 5 games that he sucked in that series.
Let's think about this. Let's look at these atmospheres, right? All right. Let's look at what's going on in Red October last year, this year. Phillies, that crowd, what do? They embrace it. They rise to the occasion. They play better because of it. The Eagles, home field advantage last year. What do? Embrace it. Get to the Super Bowl. Places going nuts. The Sixers sold out. Chanting, get the MVP. Chanting MVP. What's James Harden? Oh, shrinks. All right.
He shrinks. And the thing is, we say that he doesn't fit Philly. Hindsight's 2020, of course. Even if he did shrink in those moments, right? Last postseason, shrunk in those moments. Even with doing that, if he just committed to the team this year.
Oh, yeah.
We would still accept. It's not like we would kick James Harden out for no goddamn reason, just choking in the playoffs. It's because he's turning his shoulder, man. It's
heading
bullshit.
Into the offseason when everybody was like, there were a lot of people that were just like, I'm done, like, get Harden out of here, blah, blah. I came on this show with you and said, I can't do that because I don't know what the alternative is. I don't think there's a better alternative than James Harden. James Harden and Joel Embiid still give you the best chance to go and try to win a championship.
Yeah.
He has done this. He has flipped everything on its head and messed everything up and created all of these issues. And yeah, whatever you got going on, man, I'm not saying Morey's blameless behind the scenes, and I don't know what was promised and what was said. At the end of the day, James, it's a business, brother. And whether you feel slighted or hurt by your friend Daryl Morey, you're no better. Like, look at what you did to get here.
Yeah.
Right? And look at what you're doing to leave. So explain to me who I'm going to trust in this situation. Am I going to trust that Daryl Morey, behind the scenes with no evidence or proof, screwed over James Harden? Right. Or am I going to believe that James Harden, with his public track record, is the problem here?
Exactly. And if
I'm going to believe that James Harden is the problem here.
If you're James Harden, you're sitting here looking at Daryl Morey like this. He didn't offer him the contract, and he's his friend, right? He's been with him through a lot of his career, and he's not giving you the contract you want. But you think that somebody that's not your friend or been with you along the way is going to give it to you. You think Lawrence Frank at the end of this season, because they can't extend him if they do trade for him. He thinks Clippers manager Lawrence Frank is going to give him a max extension at the end of the season.
And the last thing, man, this is my favorite part of it all. This is my favorite part of it all when we talk about them, just wanting out after signing their deals and getting the Supermax and trying to force their way to certain situations. I have an idea as well, man. Maybe Daryl did promise you that money. Maybe Daryl did do, under the table type of, just work with us this offseason, take this friendly deal, and we'll get you back. Maybe Daryl wasn't expecting you to look the way you did in the postseason. And maybe, just maybe, if you show up and play basketball and do your job in the postseason, we're not having this conversation. Maybe you get your money if you're not historically bad for 4 of the 7 games. Hell, for 8 of the 11 games, because he was awful all 4 Brooklyn games in the first round as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's bad for James Harden when you have Clippers fans like, don't trade Terrence Mann for him. There's Clipper fans that really feel that way. And I get it, because on the other side, I brought this to you before the start of the offseason after they did flunk out against the Celtics. Would they be better with a role player in Harden's spot that maybe doesn't give you the 40-point game, but gives you, a consistent 15 and 6 rebounds and maybe 4 assists? Maybe it's not 20 and 10 here and there. The Clippers look at it from that perspective as well. Like, we're not giving up Terrence Mann for James Harden. And Clippers fans feel that way. It shows you where his reputation is at. He's a quitter. And that's the simple truth, man. He's a quitter. And he doesn't fit in Philadelphia, because one thing, we may disappoint, we may underwhelm, we may not live up to expectations, but we don't quit, man. That's the one sorry truth in the situation.
Yes, sir. Guys, that is going to wrap up this afternoon Friday edition of the Phaithful Phanatics Show. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, comment. If you are new to the channel, do not forget to show your support by subscribing to the YouTube channel. Turn on notifications if that's what you got to do. Whenever we go live, whenever we post a video, you will be notified. It's the best spot to get your thoughts and questions pulled up here on the screen with us on each and every one of our shows. It's the only spot for our DSM pregame lives for the Sixers, Eagles, and Phillies seasons. So make sure you subscribe. Like this comment here says by my man Hunter. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, have a great rest of your weekend.
Go fighting.